Selling in the billions each year, Rainbow Mealworms is your one-stop shop for all your insect needs. Their quality feeders and A-plus customer service keep me coming back to support the health and growth of all of our animals. Visit them today at rainbowmealworms.net to place your order. I want to take this time to shout out Redline Shipping. They are the #1 fastest growing reptile and animal shipping company in the world right now, and that is for good reason. Use promo code GECKO5 today at checkout for an additional $5 off your shipping label. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another new segment that I'm calling Geeky Gecko Live Reactions. So I hope that this goes well. This is my very first one. I don't know why my chat is not working right now. There we go. I see you guys. I see we got Bam Bam in the house. I love trying to pronounce your name. Ambuhol. That's how I say it. I don't know if that's it. Texas Kid, how are you doing, my man? MLB. And yeah, Mr. Wizard. Why is it not letting me text on the chat like it normally does? That might be because I set up the stream and it's so new. Like sometimes the stream needs like 15 minutes for it to actually kick into gear and to allow me to chat on my end. But okay, so I don't know if you guys have been keeping. Okay, first of all, I have a microphone now, so let me know if the sound is good. Second of all, when I bring them onto screen, please let me know if there's any echoing problems. This video is going to be a part of a test because I would love to react to things live with you guys and be able to comment and speak based on your guys' comments. So it could be reptile news, reptile hot topics, reptile drama to a certain degree, you know what I mean? So when I play this, just let me know. I don't know if you guys saw my first video was released this morning, but Rare Genetics Inc. is on top of their game. They released a second video within 2 days of the first video, and I didn't watch the second video yet. So Yvette, how is it going, Yvette and Edold? So I hope you guys want to watch this with me because this is it's a 25-minute video. So this is going to be us watching the video together, and I'm going to stop it and pause based on certain parts that I want to comment on. I don't know if it's reptile related, but how Utah just discovered new dinosaur species. What? You got to tell me about that. That's related for sure. Chucky, what's going on, man? I just sent you a message to see if you can cover some shifts this weekend, Chucky. So I appreciate that, brother, if you're able to, or if not, let me know. But paleontology. That fun fact, I wanted to be a paleontologist before I got into reptiles. That's really what got me into reptiles. Oh no, why is my mic button is glowing red? So you guys let me know. You guys are going to be the ones that kind of give me feedback whether mic's going wonky or crazy or whatever the case is. It might just be like colored and maybe I didn't recognize that last time, but paleontology, man, that's what I wanted to get into. And then I changed my mind to herpetology, which is the study of reptiles. And then, of course, changed my mind to nothing to do with reptiles for a career. And then now, obviously, breeding. Awesome. Well, I don't want to waste too much time. Let's get into this video. Let me know if there's any sound issues. Let's watch it together. And I'm going to stop it at some key parts to talk about. In addition to this video, in the description below, I left the links to the first video, and I also left the link to Justin Kabelka from Canova. If you guys know Canova, they're like the #1 brand in ball pythons, and they are live right now on Trap Talk's channel. So if you want to either watch that one and then watch ours, or watch ours and then watch theirs, there's 3 links below about this exact topic. If you really enjoy genetics and the future of the hobby for genetic testing and want a little bit more interaction with it. So let's put them on screen here. You guys already know who this is. Rare Genetics. Let's go. How's that sound, guys? How's that sound? You guys see that coming through? It was crazy.
Hey, this is Dr. Ben Morrill here for a surprise midweek episode.
Dr. B.
And I got Kayla Short here with me again, as always.
Hello.
How's it going today?
Doing good. Love the reaction about Desert Ghost this week.
Yes.
That's
why we had to come back. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Beyond what we expected.
I was watching this in my sleep a couple nights ago.
Excitement, enthusiasm, and all the questions I've Kayla was
can hear though. I don't see any.
Some of my responses have been, 1, 2, 3 in the morning. It's been crazy. I haven't slept much. It's been really fun and exciting seeing other people and their reactions and their thoughts and concerns. All of that all together. It's been pretty fun, pretty interesting, and I know that.
So what are the concerns? What would the concerns be? Well, the concerns are it's going to be more difficult to pass on Desert Ghost 100% of the time in certain scenarios. I'm a little quiet, but they are good. Oh, okay. I can increase my volume, by the way. I can increase my volume if you need me to. So let me know what the vast majority of you guys want to think. But yeah, because Desert Ghost is not a simple recessive anymore. It requires multiple genetic areas to create the gene to be expressive. Your chances of hitting a Desert Ghost are actually going to go down. And so Desert Ghost has been one of the most expensive projects to get into, but this could make the price go down, especially for some genetics that can be proven how strong they are in the animal or how many copies there are.
Desert Ghost is an awesome mutation or an awesome multiple mutations.
I don't want to fast forward through anything, so I hope that's cool with you guys.
And so
I don't want to miss any little
people excited about this.
Yeah, like this has basically been everybody. Props to Andrew Rose for this meme. It's beautiful. Chef
my kidnapper returning
as soon as I saw it. And everybody else's reactions have been, as you can see, just great. So we love it. And Clutch actually.
Yeah, no, Desert Ghost was the most expensive project a couple of years ago, but now Sunset is by far. So you're right on that. But Desert Ghost is still a very expensive project until this video. Now I think it's going to, it's up in the air, but you're going to have to watch Canova's video on Canova's live stream on how that is going to enter into the marketplace. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
We made a really nice explanation. So do you want to, Ben, do you want to help them help recap it, I guess, with what's going on with Desert Ghost?
So those of you that haven't seen this group of graphics that Summer from Clutch.
By the way, Clutch is Canova's, Justin Kabelka's husbandry and breeding tracking app. I have not downloaded it, but I would love to check it out. It's the competitor to, gosh, what am I thinking about, guys? It's the competitor to Husbandry Pro. Yeah, so it's competitor to Husbandry Pro, and one of Justin Kabelka's employees is helping pioneer it. And maybe there's an app, because they said that she was making posts. So maybe there's like a forum or like a chat group in there. I'll have to check that out.
Put together. They have it both on Instagram and Facebook.
This is a perfect analogy for what's going on. What's going on, Gecko Kingdom? How you doing? So they're recapping right now what happened in video 1. These are 2 different chromosomes. Normally, a recessive gene would only be located on 1 chromosome at 1 area of DNA. My mouse is tripping out. There's like 50 of them you can see. But on DGB, let's say that let's say this was Tremper albino, right? If this was Tremper albino, you need 1 copy from mom here on the right. You need 1 copy from dad here on the left, and boom, you get a Tremper albino. That's normally how recessive genes work, and that's how they originally thought Desert Ghost worked until this discovery. Now, to create a Desert Ghost, you need 1 copy on this chromosome and another copy on a completely different chromosome. But not only that, this chromosome has the opportunity to have 2 copies of the gene. So DGA can carry 2 copies of the Desert Ghost A version, and DGB can carry 2 copies of the Desert Ghost B version. So if you have a visual Desert Ghost, it might have 2 copies of A and 1 copy of B. And if you breed that to a heterozygous animal, you should, in the past, you would normally get 50% visuals. But in this case, you're getting more because dad is actually passing on his desert ghost gene twice as often as mom is if dad is homozygous or if he's carrying 2 copies of the gene. So I hope that makes sense.
But just talking about the fact that now we know desert ghost is polygenic, not simple recessive.
Polygenic.
And we know there are 2 genes that have the most influence on whether an animal will be a visual desert ghost or not.
Leopard gecko world.
And so everything we have so far looks like you do have to have a mutation at both a DGA and at DGB in order to be a visual desert ghost. We do, from the results this week, have one that we're going to rerun that's, makes that a little bit questionable. So that we're certainly, remind everybody, we are definitely
questionable. By the way, if you watch his first video, the information they gathered was based off of 300, I think he said, visual desert ghosts. Or not necessarily visual, but 300 animals that were in the Desert Ghost project. So correct me if I'm wrong, but if you watch his first video, that's the pool that he's talking about. Now, that's not really that's a good data set, but essentially you want your data set to be in the thousands. You want thousands of tests, right? So like I live in Arizona and we get a lot of sun. And if somebody was like, oh, everybody in Arizona is dark because they get a lot of sun, we pulled 300 animals from this 300 animals. We studied 300 people from this neighborhood, and we found that all 300 people were dark. Well, did you study the other neighborhoods? Did you study other counties? Did you study other cities within Arizona? So that's kind of the same concept as what's going on here. Is a poll of 300 animals is okay, but a poll of 10,000 animals would be better to come up with statistics. And so that's what he's saying right here is they might have one animal that is not in accordance with their last statistics.
Still in the learning phase. But what we do know is that DGA and DGB are the most influential in getting a visual desert ghost. And so it will definitely help your pairings for you to be able to produce more visual desert ghosts, to be able to select for homozygosity for DGA and DGB. And yeah, like this slide she has here, further research, we're still in that. We're still learning.
So this is how like Black Knight and Tangerine genetics work. If you want to look at it this way, there's like Tangerine location A, Tangerine location B, Tangerine location C, Tangerine location D, Tangerine location E. That was really hard to say. So let's say along these lines of polygenetic breeding, you have 5 different locations of that is contributing to the orange color in leopard geckos. If that parent breeds to another gecko and only passes along like 3 of those areas, the offspring will not be very tangerine. But if it passes along all 5 areas, then the offspring will be very tangerine. And same with the mom. Depending on if mom has 5 locations of tangerine and dad has 5 locations of tangerine, if mom passes 3 and dad passes the same 3, that particular offspring is only going to visually express at 3 locations. But if mom passes 5 and dad passes 5 and it hits in all 5 locations, now you're going to have a tangerine that is much more higher color orange than if it only hit in 3 locations.
But yeah, DGA, DGB definitely seem to be the biggest contributors to whether something will be visual desert ghost or not. And it's different enough from what we're used to thinking about, because now you have to think about 2 different locations and different places of the genome. Mm-hmm. And the more mutated copies you have at least those 2, and we're pretty sure there's at least a third. The more of that, the more mutations you have at those 2. And
if you guys don't know, they're going to talk about it here in a little bit. In the world of ball pythons, there's been an argument going back and forth about this gene called enhancer and this other gene called Desert Ghost. It has been proven that these two genes are compatible and they make desert ghosts. So they're going to talk a little bit about Enhancer. Are they just allelic? Are they the same gene? Is Enhancer a version of Desert Ghost that just has more polygenetic traits that are hitting? Like we were talking about with the tangerine leopard gecko, if all 5 places hit, that animal is going to be more orange. Well, maybe that's what's going on with the Enhancer. Maybe the Enhancer is an enhanced version of the Desert Ghost, meaning that DG location C and DG location D and E wind up playing into the look of the animal.
At least that third, the more likely you're going to have a visual desert
for some
ghost,
reason, I don't know why.
will produce visual ghosts with other pairings. So that's kind of the short and skinny. And if you kind of go through the slides from Clutch, those graphics, that might help kind of connect some dots, because I know it's a new thing to think about for most people.
Yeah, and I'm going to try and make sure that somewhere up on the screen here, we're going to have the last week's episode, so you can just click there and go see it. Or if not, it'll be on all of our social media and probably in your ball python group somewhere. So you'll be able to find it. And so we're hoping now that we can share like some of.
Just so you know, guys, there's other genetic companies that are starting to do what RGI is doing. Now, RGI is by far the best and most advanced. However, maybe some of these other companies will start to focus on gecko shed testing and become experts at that, instead of trying to catch up with RGI, which is focusing on ball python genetics. You know, because decoding the genome takes a lot of work. He's talked about it. And that costs a lot of money for a lot of salaries to pay for these geneticists. And the demand is very high in ball pythons for this information of genetic testing. But would the demand be as high in leopard geckos? It probably would be in crested geckos, because crested geckos have new genes that are in play now, and they're studying the genome of crested geckos like very deeply. But leopard geckos are kind of a little bit less interesting right now in the hobby. Like ball pythons are the most, and then crested geckos, and then like maybe like bearded dragon, and then like leopard gecko, and then like gargoyle gecko. Like the hierarchy of interest in the hobby will play a big deal into the funding that goes into genetic testing.
Answer some of the most asked questions that we've had from big names and from.
Is that mic still low? I can.
Big names, small names, everybody in between.
Yeah, and some of them, it's other people answering questions. You know, some of the questions that we've already talked about in the first episode.
Hognose is on the rise.
So some comments, some questions, and
I was just talking to somebody about this too. My concern with hognose is that they're actually venomous, and I've seen pictures of people that have bad bites from a hognose, and their whole arm is swollen. They can't feel. They're numb for a week. You know, so imagine if that happens to a kid. Now, the instances that these happen in is usually when a hognose chews on somebody for multiple minutes in a row. But if a kid gets bit and is like, oh, I don't want to hurt my hognose, I don't want to pull him off, I'll just wait for him to let go, and the kid doesn't know that the hognose is chewing venom in and into the kid, that's where a bad reaction can occur. But just so you guys know, if you need to get a hognose off of you, the best way, from hognose breeders that have told me, pull up on their nose. And so education is just going to be a big thing with hognoses because of their rear fang venom, slightly venomous situation, you know. But yeah, if you watched my video recently at CMB Reptile, I was holding hognoses, and they are amazing. I really like them, and am highly considering getting in.
Some reactions and some people talking back and forth. So.
Oh yeah. So let's get it started.
All right. So Bob Vu, in reply to Justin Kabelka, said, it's not like any of us could have thought, oh yeah, I missed out on visual to het. This gene must be different than the other recessives. New information came to light, but still, I don't think people should be freaking out. Breeders aren't hiding any information. This stuff takes science to see. Glad you guys put in the work to check this. So definitely don't worry. Like we said in the first video, we've been breeding this way for a long time. The vast majority of the time it works. like you would expect a simple recessive to. We just have additional information now that will help you make even more visual desert ghosts.
Yeah.
This is Justin's reply to Bob. He says, correct, man. Nothing really changed in a major way. We are just measuring it differently going forward. I'm not changing any pairings or relabeling anything in the short term. These things clarify over time. In the end, we may all shrug and say, remember when we all freaked out about DG for about 5 minutes? That's a good level-headed reply. I like that.
All right, so two of the biggest DG investors talking about how this is going to financially affect DG. Let me think about the validity of this for a second. If you have a DG het, let's start with visual. If you have a DG visual that is carrying 2 copies of A and it's carrying 1 copy, actually, let's say a DG visual has 1 copy of A and 1 copy of B. Here's where this becomes a big deal. Here's the exact place that this becomes a big deal. If you have 1 copy of DGA and 1 copy of DGB, only 50% of the offspring are going to inherit DGA, and 50% of the offspring are going to inherit DGB if it's bred to a non-DG animal. So a DG to a non-DG, and this DG only has 1 A and 1 B. 50% of the babies will have A, 50% of the babies will have B. So when you sell those babies, you're selling them as het DG. Now, let's say another person buys a het DG animal, and it's the same situation. You bought a het DGA animal from one breeder, and then bought a het DGA animal from another breeder, expecting that a het to a het is going to make some visuals when it's not. Because all you have is DGA, and DGA will never make a visual with DGA. It will only make a visual with DGB, and that's where it comes into play. Now, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal moving forward. However, of course, the top 2 ball python breeders that are invested in the hobby don't want to see the value of that project drop. But the fact of the matter is, this is huge. And there are going to be people that buy a DGA het animal and buy another DGA het animal expecting to make DGs, and they're not going to make DGs. And that's the crux of the matter, you know? I mean, it is what it is. I understand, you know, you don't want to talk against your own project, you know? Like, what do I got going on? Black Knight. Except sometimes I talk about against Black Knight. Black Knight is a project where the purest females that are really heavily inbred have 50% fertility and are 10 grams smaller on average than a normal leopard gecko. And I'll openly say that because I don't want anybody to feel like they are getting scammed, or, you know, especially for a high dollar animal. I want them to know what they're fully getting into. Now, this is one reason why we as Black Knight breeders are outcrossing the Black Knight to do away with the small issue and the infertility issues. But yeah, the bottom line is you're going to have animals that are sold as het DG, and you're going to have other animals that are sold as het DG. And when those animals are bred together, some animals are not going to make visuals because they are in the same DGA chromosome or DGB chromosome. So
I like it too, because it can be scary. You know, you've invested however much money into all these animals, and then suddenly genetics info is coming out and it's like, oh no, what's changing? So it can be scary, but it's all right.
I just think it's cool. It's just cool.
You can,
you know, projects
keep going the way you
go,
are,
it doesn't
and
matter.
Keep getting results like people have. But
like, look, I don't know if you guys know about the cappuccino gene. The cappuccino gene in crested geckos was like $20,000 or something like that last year. And then they found out that super cappuccinos are like runty, unhealthy animals. Boom, value dropped. So it's just part of the hobby. I mean, these things happen, you know. I think as breeders, we should understand that that's part of the risk of working and marketing genes, and we should just be upfront as much as possible with the vulnerability of being honest with our customers and letting them know, hey, this, and this could happen and whatnot, you know.
This just gives you the opportunity to know a little bit more exactly what's going on under the hood. And
yeah, DG was always a little tough because it's
for
it's a
more
brightening
Desert Ghost
gene
production in the future. That's really what it boils down
to.
And Justin here is one of was he one of the first people to really work with Desert Ghost, or Bob, one of these guys, or was that someone else?
Bob and Justin have definitely worked with that gene, multiple genes. I keep saying that trait for several years.
Good stuff. So it's coming from people who are invested in this too. So that's good. Next one, this was from a YouTube comment by Scott Johnson.
Enhancer comment.
He said, extremely interesting. I wonder how Enhancer fits into this equation, because we mentioned something about Enhancer in the last episode, but let's hear Ben's thoughts on that one.
Yeah, so we do know the few enhancers. I've only really sequenced about 5 or so that are like the breeder was told, or they, produced them from animals they were told were enhancers. So that's the best information we have. We will definitely sequence more, and I'll give you more information as we get more. But so far, the enhancers also have this identical DGA and DGB mutations that seem to lead to that visual.
So they're basically the
look.
Same animal.
So far it looks similar, but like we said, I think in the last episode, it certainly could be that other genes, like what we're assuming what we would call DGC, we don't know the location of yet. Maybe in enhancers that plays a bigger role. Maybe they have a higher percent of enhancers or homozygous for that than DGs. Don't know. Time will tell. We just know DGA and DGB are the biggest pieces to the puzzle. And there's at least one more piece, which is what we will call DGC when we find it. And there certainly could be, a D and an E, like in that graphic that we had up a minute ago. But we're learning. We're still researching this, but we're
by the way.
Sharing the fact that we have the 2 biggest pieces, and we can help you make breeding and hold back decisions based on that to improve your production of visual desert ghosts.
Good stuff. Another question from Peter Sukup on YouTube. To add to Leviathan Snake's question, they were responding to something by Leviathan Snakes. Wouldn't option number 4 shown in our graphic, specifically a double homozygous, be able to produce visual offspring when paired to a mate with no DG genes at all?
Huh.
So that number 4, that's the one.
Ooh, that's a deep question right there. Let's think about that for a second. Then we're going to see what he responds. I want to elaborate what he's talking about. So homozygous means that there's 2 copies of A and 2 copies of B. And the offspring, like let's say I can't point on my screen, but let's say the offspring is, let's see. Let me make a little note-see here. New note. Let's put a little note here. Okay. All right. This note, you guys all see the note? Give me a yeah if you see the note. So this note is the offspring of these 2 parents. So here is let me say this. This is one parent. DGA and DGB is the dad. Hold on. Wait, what am I thinking about here? DGA, DGB is, yes, okay. So DGA and DGB are genetic traits inside of the dad. Let's just say the dad. If you now breed that animal to a non-DG animal, dad is automatically going to pass on 1 DGA, and he's automatically going to pass on 1 DGB at those 2 locations. And so what Leviathan Snakes is asking is, since it only takes, according to this up here, it only takes 1 DGA and 1 DGB to make a visual. If you take a visual DG that is homozygous here and homozygous here, will it make a DG? This is interesting. If the answer to this is yes, the price for DG is also going to go down. I think, because that means essentially it's acting as a dominant trait, and dominant traits do not hold their value very long because they pass on quicker. So let's see what he says.
Here on screen now, where you have homozygous for A and B. So if all animals that are like number 1, DGA het, DGB het, if all of those were visual, that would be the case. But what we found is you can have DGA het, DGB het that is visual. You can also have DGA het, DGB het that is not visual.
No.
And that seems to be more like
whoa. Okay, that is huge. That's like another, that was not in the first video. That was not in the first video. Hold on, I might have missed it. I don't know if you guys watched the first video. That is huge, because in the first video, he covered the fact that to create a DG, you need at least one of these 4 different combinations. He did not say that combination 1 sometimes does not produce a visual DG. That is monumentous. That's monumentous. But still, the answer is yes. If you have a homozygous here and a homozygous here from dad, and he passes those 2 along, there's a chance that that trait will express in the offspring.
Likely the case that if it's a DGA het, DGB het, that it's not visual. And that's why we B het
most likely
that is visual. You can also have DGA het, DGB het that is not visual. And that seems to be more likely the case that if it's a DGA het, DGB het, that it's not visual.
Oh, that's a bomb. That is a bomb. Okay, so if like you said, if it's this first category here, it can be visual, but more likely than not, it is not visual. That's huge. So maybe it's just like, you know how we have like het markers. So essentially, if you have these two genes in an animal, it could be like a marker. Like I don't know if you guys know Eclipse. Okay, Eclipse leopard geckos. Reverse stripe is a marker that is signifying that that animal is probably het Eclipse. And it's the same with white toes of Eclipse leopard geckos. White toes of Eclipse leopard geckos typically means that a leopard gecko is het Eclipse. Those are not traits necessarily, but more like markers. A marker that this animal is heterozygous, underlying in its DNA for Eclipse. And so maybe that's what's going on with the ones that are visual here, is they're giving a little bit of a marker, but that's messy. That's messy, y'all.
And that's why we are saying we feel confident there's at least a 3rd gene that also affects.
Yeah, Gary doesn't like the Eclipse either.
So that 3rd gene, that DGC, you must be homozygous for that, which we don't know for sure yet. But if, this is our working hypothesis, if you have to be homozygous for that, then you would not be able to produce a desert ghost unless you have desert ghosts from both the sire side and the dam side. So if you bred homozygous DGA, B, and C to a normal, you'd get het for all 3. But according to our working hypothesis, we're still learning. This could change, but according to that hypothesis, you still wouldn't get a visual because it would only be het for C. And based on our breeding results up to this point, that doesn't seem to happen. So more than likely, a DGC, you have to be homozygous.
What?
And that's why you can't really produce them unless you're breeding.
Oh my gosh. That's even a bigger killer right there. So not only do you have to have one at location A, one at location B, you have to have 2 copies of the gene at location C. What does that actually mean? Let me break this down for a second. That means that the odds of you hitting a DG, you need DGA minimum, DGB minimum, DGC, 2 copies of DGC minimum. That's 4 genes. So imagine the odds are like hitting a blazing blizzard. A blazing blizzard is 4 genes. It's 2 copies of blizzard. It's 2 copies of Tremper albino. That's 4 genetics that need to hit all at the same time for the expression you're looking for. And that's what they're saying that you need to hit for just the DG, just the DG. We're not talking about any other expression going on in the animal. To hit just the DG, you need A, B, and 2 copies from C. Crazy.
2 animals that both come from a DG line.
Huh, okay. And this one is from Ozzy Bowids on YouTube. It's a little bit longer-winded. I'd like to hear more about the instances where a breeder bred DG to DG and got normals. Were these experienced or novice breeders? Were they actually visual DG or hets that were mistakenly identified as DG? For instance, DGB hets may appear as low expression DG when they're actually just hets.
There you go.
If guys who have been breeding DG from its inception have never bred DG to DG and gotten normals, I can't help but be skeptical, which is understandable considering the situation.
Wait, what did he say? If guys who have been breeding Desert Ghost from the beginning have never bred Desert Ghost to Desert Ghost and gotten normals, I can't help but to be skeptical. So maybe what he's saying is he thinks that they are manipulating their results or manipulating what they release to the public. I think that's what he's saying.
I have seen non-DG labeled as DG on MorphMarket often. We'll definitely be interested in hearing more.
All
All right. So yeah,
take it away.
Those are definitely good points. And
yeah, DG gamble now.
Probably shouldn't have even said anything in another episode. Gamble. It seems that some people have taken any.
You know what stinks too? I just took a het puzzle. I took an Orange Dream Pastel het puzzle het DG, and I just bred it to like an animal that was not puzzle. My rule in the past was anytime I breed a het to something, it needs to be bred to a visual. That way I know that the babies are 100% het at minimum. But I broke that rule because I was like, you know what? Now we have genetic testing. I could easily test an animal, whether it's het or not. I could sell off the animals that are not het and keep the animals that are het, and that won't be an issue. And so instead of breeding a visual puzzle with low amounts of genes in it to these animals, I bred het puzzle, het DGs with high amounts of genes in it to these other non-puzzle animals, just so that I could have a bunch of babies that have a bunch of genes in it that are het for DG and het for puzzle. But that appears that might not have been the best move now.
Negative or scary things, and then that's the only thing they think about. So this is definitely the exception, not the rule. There are a couple of different people that said that they believe that's happened to them. Obviously, my very first question to them is, hey, do you still have these animals? Can I sequence them?
Yeah.
I want to know what the parents are genetically. I want to know, what that offspring that doesn't look like it's a visual that you expected to be. But, right now we're not able to. Obviously, from now on, we'll all have this in mind. And
all right, let me pull my judgment back here a little bit, thinking about it. I think the only way you lose on DG, the only way you lose is if you breed a het to a het, because that way you're really gambling. Otherwise, if you have a visual DG, like he was saying, in a normal visual to het pairing, you will only make 50% visuals. But what they're actually seeing, this is what they're seeing, is that in a visual DG to a het DG pairing, they're making 70% visuals. So the number actually increases of the amount of visuals you get because of all these different genetic locations that have to hit in a visual DG. And so once you have a visual DG, you got a powerhouse of an animal. It's the only problem is breeding hets to hets, from what I can tell. Visual to visual should be okay, with the exception of what we talked about, where sometimes the genes aren't going to line up exactly, and you might get like 1 or 2 animals out of a clutch that aren't DG that should be. But if you think about it, you gain a little and you lose a little in different areas. So when you breed a visual to a visual, you're not getting 100% visuals all the time. But when you breed a visual to a het, you're getting more visuals than you do. It evens out. Do you understand my statement? Let me know if you understand my statement. I hope I explained that okay. But it kind of evens out. The biggest gamble is going to be het to het. That's what you want to stay away from.
If something like this happens, we can sequence them and find out. So yeah, those are definitely good points. And like I said, you should think of this as being the exception, not the rule. This is not a common thing. The vast majority of people don't get big surprises. Ozzy had another post just before this one in the last episode video where he said that, in his experience, he hasn't bred DG to DG and got a non-visual, but when he's done like double het projects, essentially when you're bringing other genes in,
double het to double het, that's
and then trying to make double visuals or other things like that, he's had a harder time hitting, and so that's something.
And that's huge because a lot of these big powerhouse breeders for the ball python hobby, they're making triple, quadruple, and quintuple het animals. So they're breeding 5 gene het animals to other 5 gene het animals to try to create a 5 gene visual animal. That's where the problem is going to lie for hitting that visual DG. So what's going on, Sarah? Mr. Wizard, I fell asleep and woke back up. Good to have you back, buddy. It's kind of like, I'm ashamed to say it. Sometimes I fall asleep in church. I don't know if it's the temperature or just the soothing words or whatever, the seat. I don't know, the darkness, but it happens, man. It happens. We're here with you.
Something we've heard from other people too. Essentially a het-to-het breeding that either you get none or you get very, very low odds. That seems to be the case. Guys. And really, if as a breeder you're doing this long term, especially if you're doing this as a living, you're going to keep the very best desert ghosts that you make. And so it very well could be 10 years ago, the main people that worked with Desert Ghost already were holding back the ones that are homozygous for A and or B. And so they never ran into this problem and certainly won't now. But when they go to breed and make double hets or bring another in other incomplete dominant traits, then that might be when they start getting worse odds than they expect.
Another thing that popped to mind for me is, I've seen this in...
So just quickly, a lot of people get FOMO in reptiles. You know what FOMO is? Fear of missing out. And so when DG was starting to become popular, everybody was like, I need to jump in now. I need to jump in now. I need to jump in now. And out of fear of missing out and missing the train. But keep this in mind for reptiles. There's always going to be another project. There's always, especially ball pythons, there's always going to be something that is going to keep the value of that project so you could buy in at any time. For example, instead of spending $10,000 at year 1 to buy a regular Desert Ghost, hold off a little bit. Let the project come to fruition for 2, 3, 4 years. And now, when a normal Desert Ghost is only $2,000, you could buy a Desert Ghost Mojave pastel puzzle for 10 grand. You know what I mean? So try not to give into FOMO too much. That's why with the Cypher project, I have not given into FOMO because I don't have too many excess funds right now to invest into a really expensive Cypher project. So what I'm doing is I'm building up my army of other genetics like Tangerine, Trempers, and Black Knights that eventually I want to infuse Cypher into. So when the time comes, I could buy just the right Cypher and blow it up in my collection. You know what I mean? So like instead of buying a Cypher or like let's say a 50% Black Knight het Cypher right now, I'll just wait 2 or 3 years and I'll get a visual Cypher, high quality Black Knight, and then I'll breed him to all my Black Knights and create hets all within the first generation. You see what I'm talking about? So you could save your money, sell the animals that are working for you right now, and then save up all that money and invest in the higher animal a few years from now. Let other people work the project that have the capabilities of working that project. So one more thing and I'll move on. Sometimes you might spend $5,000 on an animal, and by the time you make babies and and make really valuable animals. By the time that happens, because you don't have a lot of other animals that complement it really well in your collection, by the time that happens, the boat has sailed past you already. Okay, bye, honey. The boat has sailed past you already, and now you're actually behind. And so instead of FOMO, fear of missing out, and like buying one now, why don't you buy 2 or 3 or 4 desert ghosts 3 or 4 years from now when you have the time, money, space, resources? Then you'll be able to stay ahead of the project instead of just getting one. So Bam Bam says hi, Whitney.
Hognose and rat snake MorphMarket world, where a lot of people will, like when they have a het, they'll often just click the full morph. Like if it's het albino, but they just click albino because it has the gene. So that could also be part of the labeling issue. And why I always like to just
but we do see
double triple confirm what I have.
You ever see that happen on MorphMarket? It's the ad says like Mandarin or whatever. It says like Inferno or Clown, like Clown Het Tremper. But then you go into the ad and the tag on the ad actually says like Visual Tremper when it's actually a het. Sometimes people choose the wrong tags on MorphMarket.
Granted, I think Ozzy's been doing this longer than I have, so maybe he's probably considered that, but it's good to bring up anyway.
So I've done that, and people have had to tell me like, "Hey, that's not a pied. Why do you have it listed as a pied?" I meant het pied.
Yeah,
it
can happen, especially because I don't know, when you're typing it in on MorphMarket, sometimes the listing, like pied will pop up before
it'll auto-populate sometimes.
Yeah, and then like he's talking about people certainly can make mistakes, especially like when you're trying to tell when they're in the egg. I almost always get it wrong when I'm guessing what they are, that they it has to be this when it's in the egg, and then once it comes out, like, that was not right. But even once they're out and they've shed, sometimes you still get it wrong as you learn. You really have to produce at least dozens, if not hundreds of something to get like, some of our industry leaders like Ozzy and the people that have been doing this for years and years and produce hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands by this point.
Yeah, numbers help.
All right, so next, we have some results from this week's run. So this is after Monday, after we posted back then, right?
All right, so we got a Bumblebee, which is Spider Pastel Clown. Wait, Bumblebee. I guess it doesn't have to be Clown. Sorry, just a Bumblebee double het DG Clown. Okay, so Spider Pastel het for DG, het for Clown, times a Firefly, which is Fire Pastel het DG, het Clown. Oh, dang, look at this. Results negative.
Yeah. So these, I just got
negative
these
for
results.
A, negative for B.
2 days ago. These last few days are all kind of a blur with all the questions and answering.
And lack of sleep on your part.
Yeah. Being up for 20.
So this is probably why he's saying that location C is actually probably more important. And they don't even know location C yet, but for sure. But location C is probably more important than A or B because, as you can see, they bred a Bumblebee het DG Clown to a Firefly het DG Clown, and it did not test positive for A or B.
20 hours a day plus. So one other thing Ozzy mentioned.
Bumblebee. One way you could create. How do you create an animal that's similar to Bumblebee? I had it in my mind. What is it? Bamboo. I don't know if you know what bamboo is, Bam Bam, but the bamboo gene is very similar to the spider gene, but bamboo doesn't have an issue. I don't think you could do a super bamboo. It's been a long time since I looked into it, but bamboo doesn't have the wobble like spider does.
Mentioned that, and I've heard this from other breeders as well. That he's had animals where when they hatched out, they looked like they were clearly visual desert ghosts. But after a few months, it seemed very clear that they were not. So we have an example of this, and this is Donato from K2 Reptiles. He said he was okay with me sharing this, so thank you, Donato. very cool of you to be willing to share information so people can learn. So he hatched out a baby. It was a bumblebee double het desert ghost clown to a firefly double het desert ghost clown. And these were animals he had produced himself. He knew they were for sure double hets. And so he produced a baby that looked very clearly to be a visual desert ghost as a hatchling. And he said he was about, it's been a few months. He was getting ready to, sell or trade or do something. But he noticed that it doesn't really look like a desert ghost. And
there's a bamboo breeder. I'm trying to think of his name. He's on YouTube. He's kind of an older guy. He's really popular on YouTube. If you type in bamboo ball python on YouTube, you'll see there is one guy that has a ton of bamboos
anymore. And so he wanted to send the shed in to find out for sure, why that would happen, why it looked like a desert ghost to start with, but now it doesn't, what's really going on genetically. And so I just got those results for him. Like I said, I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, Chris Hardwick.
Anyway, it was negative for Desert Ghost A and it was negative for Desert Ghost B. So since it was a het-to-het breeding, you would expect, if it was a simple recessive trait, you would expect about a third of the time. If it wasn't visual, then you would be missing on the complete miss on the Desert Ghost. So it did not get a mutation for Desert Ghost A or Desert Ghost B. There's still a chance it could have DGC genetics because we can't test for that yet, but at least these two that seem to be the most the most important pieces to the puzzle of making a visual. This animal does not have that in it, and so that's interesting that even one that's not het at DGA or DGB could still, as a baby, look. We like can get fooled when you've got a bunch of other genes going. If it's a really nice, clean example, a really high quality example of the combo, you might get fooled, and then you.
Yeah, that's the problem with ball python breeding is all reptiles have genetic variants. We see this in leopard geckos more clearly than we see this in ball pythons because we're looking for it in leopard geckos. When you breed a tangerine to a tangerine, some of the babies are going to be super bright orange, even more than the parents. Some of the babies are going to be the same as the parents, and others of the babies are going to be less orange than the parents. In leopard geckos, we just call that genetic variance. But in ball pythons, there's pattern variance and color variance in the midst of all of these genes, but people aren't really looking for color or pattern variance. They're looking for genetic differences based on the genes. So like, let's say let me just use this as an example. Let's just say as an example, they look at an animal that's a pastel as a baby and they're like, oh, this must be het DG because there's no pastel in this pairing, so it must be het DG. When in reality, it might just be other genes in that animal's DNA that's making that animal look more yellow than average. So that's just a little example. So yeah, we're almost done, guys. Almost done.
It's not what I thought it was. So thank you, Donato, for letting us talk about that. That's an example that just happened. And like I said, is similar to experiences that I've had at least 4 different breeders. And like I said, Ozzy talked about that in the last video, that he's had that experience as well. And so we'll keep learning.
Yeah. Now I know I'm interested in I'd be interested in seeing pictures of this animal shortly after hatching versus later on.
Yeah.
Because is it normal for ball pythons to go through to go through ontogenic visual changes other than just growing in size?
Sometimes. Yeah, it kind of depends on the mutation. Sometimes they can, and even our
by the way, if you want me to do more live reaction videos like this, send me links, DM me, or my phone number is not down here, I'll put my phone number here, but DM me on Instagram or send me a message by my text, which is off our website. My phone number is on the website, And I'd love to do live reviews like this with you guys. I'll try to stick to videos that maybe aren't as long, but I wanted to watch this video. And so I figured, why not review it live, you know? So basically, we just need to aim for Super Desert Ghost in a new fashion to be ultra expensive / hype. There was another gene in Reptiles that you remember being this way. Yeah, let us know if you remember that gene. Can't remember what it was. And for what animal we need to contact the solely genetics community. They can tell us with clarity why and why not. It was only a matter of time. What am I doing here? Similar to how we have multiple albinos and geckos, just more progressed. Yeah, similar, except, that's a good point. The albinos that we know of in leopard geckos, as far as we know, they are not allelic and they are completely different genes. But I think genetic testing will give us a little bit more insight into that. Because in leopard geckos, it's kind of frowned upon when you're like mixing eye genes and mixing albinos. I think it's not so bad as long as you label the babies accurately. I have no problem with trying to experiment with double het Tremper, double het bell stuff and trying to create a Tremper bell. The guy in Canada called them bubblegum geckos, I guess, So like, I think that's pretty cool. And those are different projects that can be exciting for sure. It's just kind of, in the leopard gecko hobby, certain stuff like that is frowned upon. But hopefully by more influencers such as myself that get out there and they're like, you know what, there's really nothing wrong with this, guys. As long as you label it accurately, there's no problem with it. Hopefully that trend will start to pick up more and people can just have fun breeding what they want to breed and seeing what happens. Actually, I'm getting ready to release a genetic video on NDBE and Eclipse. Are they allelic? I'm going to release a video that might show they are. And that would be huge. I mean, think about it. NDBE and Eclipse have been in the hobby for 15, 20 years, and nobody has created a paper or any released any information publicly to show that they are allelic. Like, that's good information to have, So I'm not saying they are, but you're going to have to watch my video to see what I'm talking about.
Desert Goat, or not our Desert Goat, our GHI combos.
Yeah.
At night, and then also their glow before they go, well, like when they're close to ovulating or have just ovulated, they get super light. They look like a completely different animal. The color is 10 shades lighter. It's amazing.
Wow.
So
that's
even
really cool.
within their life, so she might be this super almost light gray.
Bad people move on, and
after she lays and eats a few times, she'll be back to that dark, GHI combo. I haven't really seen it in just straight GHIs, but some of the GHI combos, GHI Mojave combos especially, will have a pretty drastic change over.
By the way, I'm experimenting with muscle shirts like tank tops. I just ordered my first batch to see the quality of the material based on the cotton polyester blend and all that kind of stuff. See how I like it. Then I'm going to order more, and they'll be available for purchase if you guys want.
Through the year, we have a super phantom female that's the same way. Some times of the year she'll be way darker than other times. So,
man, that's crazy. Because because my thought went to, like with the ontogenic change like that, like, do you think the DGC could be connected to, well, honestly, that's impossible to say right now, but like if it were connected to ontogenic changes and like it's expressed more while young, but you're not seeing that with the other desert ghosts because it's covered up by DGA and DGB. Yeah. I know that's crazy.
Those are the kinds of
the scope of this video, but.
Well, none of us would have guessed a month ago that, this was going to be polygenic. So
yeah,
strange things definitely will happen. And it goes back to the work that Dr. Seidel did. She found out that what we've all thought was an albino, there's actually 2 different mutations that make what we think of as an albino. And then what we thought was maybe toffee and candy could maybe be different. Maybe it's the same. They actually are identical, the same, but that's 3 different mutations on the same gene. two of them make what we can call an albino, but the other one makes a candy or toffee. And
all right, so what he's talking about, it was a big dramatic scandal in the ball python world a few years back. There was like this whole toffee, candy, and albino situation, 3 different genes that were apparently allelic with each other. So just so you know, the word gene means mutation. And so if you have brown eyes at the area, let's keep it simple for now, at the area that your body is making brown eyes, you could have a mutation to make green eyes, blue eyes, hazel eyes, right? It's a little more complicated than that, but let's just keep it simple for now. There are mutations that can happen at one genetic place. Those are called alleles, and those are called genes. So alleles are variations of genes at a certain location. So when I said a second ago that NDBE and Eclipse might be allelic, that would basically mean that they are alternate, I'm not the expert here, but kind of just going based on what he just said, alternate versions of the same, alternate mutations that take place at the same genetic location and cause for a visual expression when paired together.
And, looking at from the outside, yellow belly ended up being the same way. You can't tell yellow bellies apart that are the -1 versus.
Yeah, we're gonna test to see the fertility issue with NDBE, because what is the fertility percentage? Like, there's never been papers released on that or anything that I've seen. And also, what is the percentage of babies that have the eye issues? We also want to document that, because NDBE is a cool gene. It does cool things. If we can figure it out, if we can clock it, if we can figure out the best way to work it and extrapolate the good parts of it and get rid of the bad parts of it, that would be awesome to work with that gene. I mean, there's moon eyes versions. It creates a darker animal. I really want to make an NDBE Black Knight. That's what I really want. Imagine an all black animal with silvery gray moon eyes, or even an all black animal that's even darker than most Black Knights because it has NDBE and has an all black eye. I think that's worth pursuing,
Versus the -17, they look identical. But genetically, they actually do have a different mutation in that gene. So it's cool. It's fun. We learn more and more every gene that we study.
Yeah. Let's see. Another one from Justin. This is a Facebook comment that reads, in response to Nick Bergener, I've been working on it almost as long as anybody. I guess this is reference to DG, and probably made more DGs than almost anybody. Sure, I got strange results, but it was always within the realm of just tough odds. It wasn't until RGI, that's us, used my DG samples to figure this new information out that I began to look back at my results with a critical eye and see that what I considered to be bad odds could actually have a reason behind it.
So yeah,
he was experiencing, even Justin, who's one of the largest workers with the DG, even he was saying that he was having, it would seemingly be bad odds at producing visual DGs, and this might be an explanation why. So I think that's the conclusion of DG, is it's going to be tougher to make in some situations, and in the other situations that makes it easier to make, tougher to make drops the price. Easier to make drops the price. Are these two going to cancel each other out and the price stays the same? That will be interesting to tell. Are people just not going to want to work with DG because of how confusing and complicated it's seeming to be? That could drop the price as well. We will see.
Part, having a genetics background, I'm familiar with many traits that are polygenic and how that works. The really cool and interesting thing is that this one has so few genes that have the most impact. And so it's really interesting to see that, if you have 2 genes that are the major forces, it really can look very similar to a simple recessive trait and breed just how you would expect it to. But really, once...
Uh-oh. Did we lose him? We might have lost him, guys.
polygenic was because
there you are.
We looked at the. Oh, sorry, did I cut out?
Yeah, just a little bit. Rewind like 4 seconds.
So yeah, one of the biggest reasons we started looking at it and thinking it could be polygenic was because when we compared the whole genomes of a whole bunch of non-desert ghost animals to a whole bunch of visual desert ghost animals, we could see 2 obvious peaks where there was a change in desert ghosts that was not present in non-desert ghosts. So, and it's clear as day that there are definitely 2 things going on different chromosomes that affect this. And so if I had just done this by looking at breedings, I probably never would have come to this conclusion. It was doing the whole genome sequencing and then comparing a pool of desert ghosts to a pool of non-desert ghost line animals that should be completely negative.
We'll go over
comparing those 2 pools and seeing what's different. That's what pushed us in the right direction. Without that, it would have been really difficult to ever figure this out.
Yeah. All right. Oh, hey, I guess that's the end of our questions there. Well, cool. I hope we were able to answer the big questions for you guys and probably produce 6 more. So, well, thank you, Ben, for doing a surprise video for us. And yeah, you got any final thoughts?
No, just thanks once again. The excitement keeps me going when I can't sleep anyway. And probably part of why I can't sleep, but I'm having fun not sleeping. This is fun stuff that I've been thinking about a lot for many weeks, few months. So yeah,
awesome.
It's a lot of fun. Thank you all for your words of encouragement and questions and all those things. They do mean a lot.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment below. Share, make more memes. They make me smile. And yeah, I guess we'll see you guys next Monday. Hopefully we're probably going to have some more cool stuff for you. So see y'all next time.
Thanks.
And outro in 3, 2, 1.
Let's see what their outro is. What's recommended? Things are heating up. Reptile
We all wish we could hear our cats' voices.
That is from a month ago. So this channel right here, Reptile Genetics Inc. on YouTube, they have some really cool genetics videos, a lot of videos that are out. So I suggest going over there and listening to some of their videos. If you're into genetics, that'd be pretty cool. So based on whoever's left here, any thoughts, concerns, questions that you'd like to talk about before we leave? I like this style where I could just pop on a camera, do a live stream, upload, like watch a video, comment on it. It's fun to be able to do that, get your thoughts on it. Other people will be able to watch it back. My final thoughts. I was not too heavy into DG, but I have some animals that are het DG or supposedly het DG, right? Supposedly het DG. Now I don't really know if they are. Is it even worth it? DG is a gene that makes the animal cleaner and brighter. It doesn't exactly make the animal more colorful. It makes it cleaner and brighter. Now, Justin Kabelka is working on some combinations that has shown the animals to be colorful, but I still think the non-DG versions were more colorful. And I could be wrong as time goes on. Maybe DG will prove to be more colorful, but there's a difference between bright and colorful, right? You could have a gecko, for example, you could have a gecko that is brighter orange, but you could have another gecko that is deeper, richer orange, almost more like an orangey red. And the question is, which one do you like more? Well, the answer is really both, right? You could really go for both. But as expensive as DG is, and given all the complications of the project, will the value and desire of the project stand in the midst of other genes that could be somewhat comparable to DG? Now, these genes are not exactly like DG, so don't think that that's what I'm saying. But lace and white lace, hypo, what other genes that clean up? animals. Those are, I would say those would be the two that come to mind right now. I don't know if there's any that come to mind for you guys, but hypo and lace are two genes that can make animals lighter and brighter, similar to what DG does. So bam, bam. DG is going to be one of those high risk, big reward. Yeah, if you could, yeah, big reward if the project is valuable, right? So it could be the same as like Cappuccino. The Cappuccino project was extremely valuable until it wasn't when the negative results came out about you know, the super version. I'll be sure to check that out. Always need something to listen to. Yeah, guys, please, if you know any reptile information that you want me to talk about, any videos that you've seen, shoot me a message, 480-299-7657, or email me on my website. My phone number is on my website. Reach out to me on social media at Geeky Gecko Creations. I'm going to want to do more videos like this, and I can just sit down for 30 minutes to an hour, just like I did right now. I think this was about an hour stream, and I can review the video live with you guys, get your thoughts. You can watch it back if you miss it. Ask me questions about, you could send me questions about it, but while you send me the recommendation for the video, and I can answer those questions during the video. So I think I'm going to end it there. I really got to build some racks. I got to, you know, we're getting a lot of holdbacks that I need to build racks for. So I'm going to get to work on that. But really appreciate you guys being here. Thanks so much. I'm going to start doing interviews again, more than likely. I'm going to see if maybe I could get Robin from Redline Shipping, Darian from MorphMarket. I want to see if I could get this guy from Rare Genetics Inc. on there. Cover the new dinosaur species discovered next time. Yeah, can you send me the link to that video? I would love to cover a dinosaur that falls into the Geeky Gecko reptile umbrella. So thank you guys. I really love you a lot. Bam Bam, I hope you have a good rest of the day at work. JJM4, all the people that were involved in this live stream, thank you guys so much. Grady's Geckos. Peace and love, you guys. Have a Geeky Gecko great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.